Number 2 is in there. Put your prediction in. Put your money where your mouth is. Lidakor, take us away.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I don't even think about anything else but the barracks right away. 20 seconds into this game, Viper is going to drop that barracks, and you see Beasty knows that. We're jumping into game number 2 of this best of 5 between Beastyqt and the Viper. Viper is on the right side with the English in red, and to the north it is going to be Beasty with the French in blue, and Beasty knows what's coming.
Yeah, so let's see exactly how Beasty looks to play this. Now, if he knows that this is coming, what is he prepared against Viper? Because keep in mind, in this situation, Viper's got access to the men-at-arms in Age 1, whereas Beasty has only got access to the Spearmen. So he's going to need to make a decision. Do I look to potentially get Spearmen out myself? Do I look to drop an outpost? Do I just look to micro my villagers the same way that we saw Vortex do, where essentially what he was doing was just pulling back the low health ones? So I would like to see from Viper a second men-at-arms. I know it delays his feudal timing, but by getting a second men-at-arms out, you're actually not going to be able to do a lot against that. It's going to be more than enough to deny any potential villager pulls or those sort of shenanigans.
Yeah, I agree with you on this one, especially given the fact that Beasty's gold's at the back of his base, which makes this much more difficult for the English. If that gold mine was a little more exposed, the walking distance would be much smaller for this Vanguard man-at-arms, and you see, this guy has to loop all the way around. It's actually surprising that Viper is taking this big circle around the base of Beasty, because he should know that Beasty has seen the barracks out there. And I think Beasty's best response here is just to send out as many villagers as possible to gold, to gather the gold he needs for feudal age. And you see, Beasty's got the gold for feudal. He could leave this gold mine straight away. And you see, he went for 4 on gold. Obviously, he needs a sufficient amount of villagers on food, so he can continuously produce villagers. But this is the stage where you just want to send out as many villagers as possible to the gold, pick up the gold you need before the man-at-arms arrives.
Yeah, and this is this is one of the things I sort of love about the English men-at-arm rush. I was talking to a very a high-level theory crafter, I like to say, Kanoki, and he basically said the problem with English men-at-arm rush is that if you know what's coming, you just gather all the gold with your villagers before the men-at-arms comes, and there's nothing you can really do about it. And that's exactly what we are seeing happen. So Viper, in this position, has invested in the men-at-arms, but I mean, he's got to be looking to potentially divert the attention of Beasty away from things like Wheelbarrow, away from things like Professional Scouts, even away from the Knight. So that will buy him time. And so even though he hasn't denied the age up, he still denies a significant potential or a significant portion of the potential options for Beasty.
I 100% agree with you. That's exactly it. Denying the feudal age would be the absolute jackpot. So it's like winning the lottery. If you deny the feudal age, that's a jackpot. But you're going to be more than happy just having a very close to a jackpot spot. Being able to deny a wheelbarrow, Professional Scouts, really limit the options of the French is still a great reward for a single man-at-arms investment. And Viper, ultimately, we talked about this one. He's got the slower moving army. Generally speaking, he wants to play a much more defensive game with the farms being set up. So it's all about making sure that he delays those first couple of knights arriving. And if Beast isn't sending in knights, he could send in horsemen, but those are way less tanky, especially against the British or English town center that's firing double arrows. It's much more difficult to do damage early on for Beasty with horsemen as compared to knights. So this single man-at-arm is buying a ton of time for Viper.
Yeah, and that's a really smart move by him to do that. You can see that Beasty is continuing to struggle to get that additional gold. He's sitting on 64 gold at this point in time. He did try and go out and gather up a little bit more, but it looks like he's going to be forced into this direction by Viper. So, I mean, in reality, 1 man-at-arms versus 2 men-at-arms, the 1 man-at-arm just makes sense because it's going to be able to do the exact same thing as the 2 men-at-arms because it's just denying the gold. And that's essentially it. So very well played coming through from Viper at this point. He is now aging up behind this. We do see there are going to be no Abbey of the Kings or King of the Abbeys. Oh, no, Abbey of Kings shenanigan today. It's just going to be the Council Hall that goes down for him.
You know, continuing your thought process about the second man-at-arms, the one thing that I would love to see is a man-at-arms and then followed it up with a spearman, because we have seen this more and more, that the way that Beasty or the French player is going to respond to the man-at-arms is going to be popping out a horseman potentially. Looks like the man-at-arms probably has run into the town center fire because it's very heavily damaged out here. So it's likely going to get ultimately taken down by the scouts. But oftentimes the French player sends in the horseman to clean this up. So having 1 spearman out there once again could delay that cleanup lot.
Yeah, we now see those knights, or those scouts looking to try and do some damage onto that spearman. There's not much health left on it, and looks like one of the scouts going to go down if Beasty's not careful. The villagers going to be turning their attention towards the scouts, and indeed a horseman going to be coming out and going to be cleaning up this mess, as we do see there is a final man-at-arms that will go down, and indeed he loses his life. But at the same time behind this, Viper is already in age 2 as well. And now we've got Beasty dropping down an archery range. So looking to head towards this archery range plus cavalry or school of cavalry opening that is pretty standard now. And we see a lot of villagers on gold for him. Behind this, Viper has got that wheelbarrow being researched. Same with Beasty, but now Viper begins to add in farms. Look at that. He is getting down to business, it seems.
Yeah, he's dropping the farms right now, and he's got a fairly well defendable base if you look at the forest positions. One on the left, one on the right side. He could wall off his flanks. The source of concern right now for him is that his gold mine is very open, so he can't really just sit down and turtle, because at this point, Beast is gonna have an opportunity to deny him from gold, thereby making it much more difficult for Viper to just turtle down back at home, go Castle Age with the King's Palace, and then unleash hell in Castle Age like he did in the previous round.
Yeah, well, that's exactly it. I mean, we've seen how potent Viper's feudal or castle age can actually be with the English. And now he's looking to wall up over on that eastern side of the base, trying to control the narrative, prevent a few raids coming through, and now just a couple spearmen being rallied out to this central forest location. You got to wonder exactly what the plan is for those bad boys. But now we also see some walls coming up towards the north of the map. Both players walling up and preparing for the late game, it seems. This is, I mean, it's time to strap yourself in at this point.
Yeah, this is interesting because we have seen, once again, in the previous set that Viper has played, that the French player was trying to respond to this one by adding a second town center, but that's also very risky because Viper can quickly shift from a very much eco-focused approach to just a flood of units, because once that English farming eco really kicks in, his food income is so good that he can just flood the map with units, and is that a boar I see? I love that move. I think those villagers are moving out for a boar, or are they moving for a hunt?
I think they're moving for a deer hunt. It'd be a very tough sell, a boar up in that position. That would be a very safe boar. But yes, it's just going to be a deer hunt for this point in time. But yeah, I got to say, I like this as well. Obviously, the new changes with the way that hunting works means that hunting is a lot more attractive. At least in my opinion, it's a lot more attractive. Some people seem to think it's a bit of a nerf. I was speaking to the Muslim about it. He said that because the deer are now the villagers are carrying more deer, that as a result, it means it's a bit of a nerf, because if they die, then they haven't delivered that food and you lose it. So that's his thinking. But yeah, a little bit of a scuffle out the front of the base now here. Viper holding off against Beastyqt. He's got his walls up. He's looking pretty safe at this point, and now going to be dropping down an outpost on the gold mine.
Very much defensive gameplay over here for Viper, but you see, he knows that he has some exposed resources out here, so he's investing into quite a lot of spearmen, quite a few longbowmen out there, even a defensive tower, and oh boy, looks like the cavalry gets through on the right side before the walls are finished, and that is going to be one dead villager out there. I guess the cavalry got through and then the villagers still finished the walls after that. It looks a little weird because now the walls are complete.
Yeah, I was looking at that, like, how did he get through there? But you can see there is that one pillar. I'm pretty confident the units can't get through that pillar. At least they shouldn't be, unless we are being deceived. If there's a pillar and the one single block of wall there, then that would make sense. Let's see. Let's watch it. It is going to build the one pillar. Does it build? Hey, you get back there. You finish that wall, my friend. Oh, jeez. Viper just maximizing his efficiency right there. He says, you know what? 90% is good enough.
Look at that scout hidden that stout forest or beast. That is such a good position over there. He knows every single step that Viper is making, and that is going to give him a lot of information. Knows very well when to time his strikes on that gold mine. In the meantime, we also have him going for both of the hunts, one on the left side of his base, one on the right side, but Viper banking up the food already for Castle Age. And once again, the problem here for Beasty is that he wasn't able to break this defense. The good news is that he doesn't even want to, because he himself is banking up resources for Castle.
Yeah, he's going to be up very, very shortly. And I love the way that he's playing this, just sending out a few villagers out to either of those hunts. He's really looking to keep his food under control. No need for farms at this stage in the game. Obviously, Viper on the other side, he has got plenty of farms in. And now going to be moving out a couple of archers, looking to try and take control of this scout and prevent any scouting information going back to Viper. But now we do see, once again, a villager that manages to actually wall in successfully. And now cavalry units. So what was that? Did you see that? That knight almost went through the wall there.
Yeah, it looks like he's going to just loop around though. Villager does survive. I think this is the same horseman, the knight, that killed that villager before. And look at that double kill. the synchronized deaths out there. The
You
small
love
things
to
that
see
you
it.
appreciate, right?
Yeah, you love to see it. Guildhall now going down for Beastyqt. At the same time, it looks like he's adding in a blacksmith as well. Blacksmith going to be able to provide him with that +2 melee attack for free. Scout going down on the front line. No professional scouts coming out for him, so not really losing a huge amount. Just going to be losing that scouting information. But Viper, very happily just sitting here. He's got his walls up, and now he just sort of plays for the late game. The question is, what kind of composition does he look to play? Is he going to be looking to play that same composition he played before? If I remember correctly, it was the Longbow's men-at-arms together with just a Mangonel or a Springled hero there. Let's see if he looks to do the same thing.
Yeah, it is definitely an option for him. He's ready to go up to Castle Age in a matter of seconds. He only has like 400 food per minute, though. You see, he's getting quite a lot of gold, but his food income isn't spectacular. I think he's at like 6 or 7 farms only, and that's delaying his Castle Age quite substantially, to a point where Beast is already up to Castle Age, and I think Beast is thinking about the castle here for himself, because he just sent out like 10 villagers on stone. It's possible he's going for a second town center as well, but in that case, he's really trying to rush that up, because that's like 8 or 9 villagers out there.
Yeah, let's take a look at his guild hall. I'm curious to see what direction he's going to go with this guild hall. Some players prefer to opt for stone, some go for gold, but some stick with food, and it looks like he's going to be going for gold today. So a curious decision for him, but definitely makes sense, considering the landscape of the map and considering how central those 2 large golds are.
Yeah, indeed, you can definitely go for a gold over there. That's probably your best long-term solution, although as long as you haven't shifted into the farming eco as your primary food source, you can also justify going for food. You see many players initially opening up with food and then later on switching to gold. For now, he's going to keep it on gold. He's mining a lot of stone here, currently at 135, 150, but he won't have the wood for a second town center immediately, so that's why I'm getting the impression that this could be for a castle, and you gotta wonder where exactly that castle would be placed if he decides to do that.
It's got to go middle of the map on that gold, surely. He gets a gold sacred site. There's a really nice spot in there. So I would suspect he would look to try and take it a bit aggressive, because there's no real indication that he is suffering any kind of pressure from his opponent. Now, Viper's done the rare thing in this occasion and actually walled. We've watched a lot of Viper games today, and he hasn't really done much walling. There was one game in particular where he was getting raided like a madman and he still wasn't walling. It's like, I don't need to do it. But here in this situation, he said, I need to wall in. I know what this Beastyqt guy is like. And we do see that 454 stone has been gathered, and he's just sort of left it. Where does he go from here?
Oh boy, towers are coming up. That is insufficient for a second town center, and I agree with you that in the middle of the map, a castle would be great, but it's so risky. I mean, right now, Beast is pretty much playing blind. He doesn't have eyes on Viper's base, he doesn't have eyes on Viper's army, so moving out to the middle of the map to drop a castle blindly would be insanely risky. Viper is going to play with triple barracks, so once again, it's going to be a combination of spearmen and men-at-arms. He has already gotten the feudal age men-at-arms upgrade, he's yet to get the third one, and you see, he's also grabbing the second lumberjacking upgrade over here already, so very much eco-focused approach, and it looks like we're seeing the relics being brought in only by Beasty here with the little army he has.
Yeah, and it looks like a second town center going to be going down for Beastyqt on the wood line. We can see he's got 154 stone in the bank, meaning that he has dropped or he spent that, but now a bit of a raid going to be coming in down towards the south here. There's that second town center in all of its glory at the same time, and now 2 knights making their way through onto the farm line, and 2 knights also retreating, so looking to try and split the army of Viper. Let's see whether he's able to actually take it down.
And you gotta love how these knights are sort of hiding at the back right now. Viper is looking for them. For a moment, Beastyqt was thinking about just hiding them here at the back, but once Viper discovers them, he's gonna have to try and get a couple of villager kills or just disengage. And this is a problem for Viper. He has his base mostly walled, but those knights will just run past those walls on the front, and they will just run to the back of your eco, and that is always an option for Beasty, to just commit 5 knights into the food eco of the opponent like that.
Yeah, I would have loved to have seen these walls come up a little bit closer. You know, I really like my idea, Lidakor, of making it so that there's an upgrade in the late game that enables you to wall to your buildings. I feel like it would just make it so much easier. Because, you know, in AoE 2 and AoE 3, you can do that. You can create walls with your buildings. But in AoE 4, it is just open season for any of those units to get through. But now those knights finally going to get taken out. He's going to be able to potentially get through there again. You can see there's a big gaping hole in that wall.
Yeah, there is going to be a quite large hole. At least there's going to be a defensive tower now, so at least Viper will have vision on approaching enemies. Right now, Beasty possessing a 9 villagers lead over Viper. Both players on 2,000ers, but of course you have the French with the faster training villagers, and Beasty is now starting to wall up. And this is where Viper is entering a danger zone to a certain extent, because this is the specialty of Beasty, this super late game scenario, as the Knights are going to get slaughtered by the Spearmen over there. Knights with low line of sight, they had no idea about that army being there.
Yeah, well, this is exactly, as you mentioned, where Beasty loves to be. He's got that second town center down, continuing to build up that villager lead. He sits on 63 compared to the 53 of his opponent. He's currently bringing in 3 relics, but we'll take that down to 2. He's managed to take 4 of the relics so far. There is 1 relic that remains in that south corner of the map. Highly unlikely to be taken by Beasty, but never count him out. He is the kind of guy that means absolute business. Going to be running past the boar here. Not going to be spotted out by his enemy, though. In a huge battle that's beginning to unfold now. The Spears making great connection there. And Viper, sitting on 34 military at this point in time, looking to push out, looking to break out of his shell.
Yeah, Viper is amping up the pressure on Beasty's base, and if you take a look at Beasty's army, it's not looking spectacular. He's adding Arbaletria though, and that's going to be a decent response to the men-at-arms, but there is not a single men-at-arms in that army. Well, there seems to be 8 men-at-arms for Viper all across the map, but that specific army that's marching up on the base, that actually has 4. They were just hiding in the stealth forest. Still, it looks like Beast is gonna have to start taking that fight, and this game starts to remind me very much to the game that we have seen from Viper in the previous round with the same civilization matchup.
It is looking very, very similar, isn't it? There's no real differences at this point either. At this point in time, there's still a pretty decent mass that's coming out from Beastyqt, but at the same time, oh, Mangonel actually going to get taken out here. You can see the archers. What are they doing? Archers actually looking to take out the villagers on the gold mine. Great job there, and now at the same time, Spearmen going to be making their way, and the men-at-arms as well. Yeah, he stuck him. Yep. Help me step, bro. I'm stuck. Oh, you hate to see it right there. Nice little laundry machine maneuver coming in there from Viper.
Now, Beasty has enough Knights to clean this up with, though, especially with the Arbaletry also coming from the right side. So looks like Viper pulling back his forces for a brief moment, comes in with the reinforcements. I don't think Viper can win this fight, though.
Yeah, you would think that, but don't count him out. No, actually, there's way too many Arbaletria up there to the north. Viper is definitely not going to be losing, or winning this fight, rather. Mangonel also coming out for good measure. Viper got to be running back towards his base. We see it keep going down in the middle. At the same time, it looks like that relic towards the south was finally cleaned up. It looks like Viper going to be taking 1 for the team there, as Beastyqt's got 4 for himself. But at this point in time, villager count looking relatively even. Beasty ahead by about 8 villagers at this point in time. But a huge amount of relics are the real difference. And now we see in the middle of the map, castle getting dropped down on this sacred site. Villagers getting picked off. What is Beasty doing? Has Beasty forgotten that he sent these up? And he's like, oh, that's right, I was making a castle. Oh, that is not good. That is doubtful that gets
a very low HP castle. And buildings now take more damage while under construction. Viper could easily destroy this one with the men-at-arms. Look at the HP dropping so rapidly. The Knights are approaching, but that keep is just so close to destruction. Beast is still not sending in the villagers. 500 HP left over there. I think Beasty, he might need to cancel this actually because he's in the risk of losing it. Looks like the Mangonels appear on the battlefield just in time though to save the day. That was extremely risky for Beasty there.
Yeah, you can see he's managed to come back up. There is a Mangonel sitting behind it, so the archers, the longbows, got to be careful. They're firing off towards those villagers, and once again, going to be able to cancel this position. You can see the men-at-arms working towards those Mangonels. There's 2 of them out already. Spearmen going to be chasing them away. Their villagers managed to evacuate towards that outpost to safety, and now Viper looking to take control of this game. You can see the longbows very intent on killing that castle. Don't know how well they're going to do that, and indeed he decides to retarget them towards the actual army of his enemy. And I mean, at this position, you'd have to say it's looking advantageous for Viper. He's got the 2 town centers compared to Beasty, who's also got the 2 town centers. Beasty sitting on 74 villagers, Viper on 69.
Yeah, and Viper has got a great food eco set up. If you look at the food income for Beasty, it's at 870. But that was, Mangonel fire coming out there. Viper still wants to take that castle down. It's like 500 HP. But what I was going for before this castle is that the food eco for Beasty was yet to be transitioned to the farming eco. I think he's just now making that transition. So right now, Viper has a much more consistent supply of food, and that allows him to field an army a little bit more consistently. Looks like now the cost is going up though with the Mangonel support. Knights coming in for a bit of a raid here.
And why is Viper just turning his attention down towards this single knight? Beasty has turned this single knight into a success story. All of the army gets pulled back from Viper. This keep goes up. There was only 3 villagers tapping away at it. It now gets up without too much of an issue. He was easily able to challenge that position, but now Beastyqt going to be able to move in towards the late game with a keep up in the center of the map. He's going to be very happy and now forces his opponent to make either trebuchets or eventually get to cannons or bombards. But that is a long way off, and this is going to buy him so much time. And as the French, I mean, you want to avoid getting to the late game up against the English, but if you can go in with a lead, then definitely, you can do a lot of work.
Indeed, I would love to see what the status is on that guild hall though, because we haven't really talked about that. If the resources weren't withdrawn yet, we could see thousands of resources there in there. I'm curious about that one, 220, so it was recently taken out. I guess that's the reason why Beasty's floating 1700 gold as we speak.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense for him to be pulling that out at smaller intervals than some other players have looked to pull it out. We did see players let it get to over 9,000. Typically not the best way to play it, so pulling it out before it reaches that amount, definitely advisable. But now we see that the villager count still in favor of Beastyqt at this point. Obviously, he's got the relics as well. But keep in mind, that late game, we are moving closer and closer towards it. So I'd be curious to see how Beastyqt manages to play it. Now, man-at-arm raids potentially coming through. We can see them moving out over all the sides of the maps, up towards the west side, up towards the east side. There are men-at-arms moving out in all positions, and Viper is looking to do some damage.
Yeah, Viper is doing the exact same thing that he did in the previous game. Those man-at-arms being very tanky. They're not particularly fast, but when you use smaller groups like that, they will just ignore arrow fire. So Beasty will have to actively send army to deal with them, and that's the key thing. It's just small group from the left side, small group from the right side, small group from the middle, and Beasty has to look at 5-6 different places at the same time to deal with all these raids. And you see, because Beasty is not walled from the left side, these will go straight into that food eco, and even though they won't necessarily kill a ton of villagers, they will be able to do quite a lot of damage by forcing idle time. Mangonels though crawling up in the middle, and that's where things could get a little dangerous here for Viper.
Yeah, and now we see that the Mangonel mass is beginning to build for Beastyqt. So Viper probably going to need to respond with a Springald. In fact, we already see a Springald coming out for him in queue. But at the same time, look at Beasty now. 6 Springalds coming out for him, and he shows these to Viper as well. Viper was moving on that gold mine, but now reveals it to Viper. And so Viper's sort of got to ask the question, is it worth even going into Springalds when my enemy has invested that much into them? What if I just took all those resources that I was going to put into Springalds and just put them into infantry instead? But now I keep going to be going up in response to that larger mass of siege, and Viper looking to hold this position, and I think we might have an Imperial Age coming through shortly. Viper stacking up the resources and looking to go late game, baby.
Yeah, it's going to be Imperial from the Viper, and to answer your question, it's not worth for him to go for Springalds right now, but what if he goes for Springalds in Imperial, and he's going to get the extra range over there? The Wingard Palace is going to be the landmark of choice. That's going to allow him to field very, very cheap trebuchets, and in the long run that really starts to have an effect, because sure thing you get the first trebuchet, it doesn't feel like it's much, but you can just keep spamming that Wingard army, and you can get to like 6, 7, 8 trebuchets and just melt castles in split seconds. Both players are thinking the same thing, trying to wall off the left flank.
Yeah, this is exactly what the late game is all about. Making sure you've got those walls down, stopping those raids from coming through, because whenever those raids get through, you can deal with them, but it diverts your attention. And that's where the difficult situation is, because if you're fighting on one front, and let's say you've got 5, 6 Springalds out, you make a split-second decision to go back to your base and deal with a raid, congratulations. All your Springalds just decided to do a Springald kiss, and they all died. But Wingard Palace now going to be coming in for him. You can see that he's put it in a relatively forward location. I would say that this is a bit of an unsafe, a dangerous location. If a push does come to shove, Viper might potentially lose that Wingard Palace. And now, speaking of pushes coming to shove, look at the siege mass that's beginning to build up here for Beastyqt.
I mean, he knows that his opponent is Imperial, so he has to strike before the upgrades come in, but does he have the army to do this? Viper, it does have the network of Citadels bonus now, so his longbows will just be machine gunners, really, with that fire rate. He's just going to massacre all those knights that are coming in, and the problem here for Beast right now is that he needs to push, but he simply doesn't have the army to do that. Sure thing he's got 3 Mangonels, but if you look at the military of Beasty, most of his military population is Springolds. Good luck using those to do any damage in the opponent's economy.
And that's exactly it. One of the things is when you invest in Springles like this blindly, you can be punished for it massively because they're essentially just, you know, they're useless to a larger extent. Because if your enemy never makes siege, then you're never going to be able to get any use out of them. And so you've just made a whole bunch of, or put a whole bunch of resources into this. Oh, geez, that tower. Just perfectly placed, isn't it? Viper says, mate, you want to make a wall, you're going to have to go through me. You can't go around.
Yeah, it's not like stone wall towers where you just build a wall and the towers are on it. That's not gonna work like that, especially not when that tower belongs to your enemy. And that is going to deny the entire walling attempt of Beasty on the left side. Mangonels are now converging on that southern area, but I think that's the plan here for the Viper because he wants to push the middle with trebuchets. On the right side, Viper is going to try and raise up a castle against Beasty as well. Oh boy, so many things happening all across the map.
We don't see that Wingard Palace being used at all. Viper might have forgotten about this or even thought it was putting down another landmark. But speaking of landmarks, there's a bit of a landmark victory over there on the eastern side of the map as a keep is going to be going down for Beasty. He's also aging up to the next stage. Keep goes down, boiling oil going to be coming out. Looks like he's going to be able to secure up this stone, but at the same time, Viper gets a keep up and he will subsequently deny it from his opponent. And as a result, it means that all of those villagers stuck inside there are going to be calling for step, bro.
Mangonel is now crawling up in the middle over here. You gotta really respect that if you're Viper. First of all, he comes out. He's gonna have to call off his forces, and we talked about this one. At some point, you're gonna have to deal with those Mangonels. Imperial Age, as he said, is on the way as well for Beastyqt. Likely the Red Palace is the landmark of choice. The question is where exactly that's being placed at. Probably on one of the big gold mines. But the Mangonels are crawling up more and more, and you get the feel that Beasty wants to force a fight here before he even reaches Imperial.
Yeah, I would say a little bit of a mistake coming out here from Beasty. Ideally, you want to avoid fighting if you're aging up. But in this situation here, he's decided to really commit to this push. Arbalatrier looking to defend with the Mangonels on the front line. A Rebaldaquin coming out for Viper. Interesting decision. Not sure exactly what the intention is there.
That's a terrible unit. I mean, situationally,
it's really bad.
It's really bad. I know that because I played a 2v2 yesterday with Salami where I only went Rebaldaquin and it was terrible. The problem with that unit is that it has 3.75 range, so you virtually have to march into the face of the enemy army to even get a first volley out. And I mean, we're talking about the enemy having like 6, 7, 8 Springles and we'll just snap them down from distance. And it's not like they're even cheap. They're like 400, 600 or something like that. For the price that you pay, they are terrible.
There's only one situation I've ever seen them useful, and that was when the Mister was playing. I can't remember who he was playing up against, but he was playing as the French, and his enemy was making a whole bunch of spears because he was making only knights.
Yep.
And so he made 3 Rebaldaquin, hid them in a stealth forest, and, well, I'm sure you can imagine what happened.
Yeah, like if you have a good meat shield in front and your opponent has absolutely nothing, no cavalry or no Springles to take them down with, they're actually useful, but that's really the only condition under which they can be utilized to a decent effect. Bit of a night rate coming in here by Beasty, and Viper is dropping quite heavily in villager count. Look at that, he's down to 90. Those knights are starting to pay for their price, and Beasty started stonewalling the left side, so Viper's chances of counterattacking will be smaller and smaller. Viper's eco is in a difficult spot right now.
Yeah, at this point in the game, you would have to say that if somehow Beasty finds a way to win, then he's going to have significantly outplayed Viper, because English is one of the strongest civs when it comes to the late game. They've got so many great upgrades that really help them. Enclosures and clad armor are 2 of those huge upgrades, not to mention the fact that he's gone for the Wingard Palace. So everything is online right now for Viper. The question is whether Beasty's going to find a way to beat him. At this point in time, he's down 40 villagers, so that is definitely a good start. And the question is going to be whether he can actually make it stick. Now we start to see those military units beginning to build up towards the north side of the map. Keep down towards the south, actually not being able to protect these villagers. Call step, bro, because Beastyqt is going to be losing a huge amount of villagers down here to the villagers of Viper.
One thing that Beasty has to respect is that as Viper is losing villagers, he has enough resources to replenish them with armies. So, sure thing, Viper is down to 92 army, but that's 95, or 92 villagers, but that's 95 army we are talking about for him right now. And that big bowl of English death is just super scary, especially with that castle in the middle now gone for Beasty. The way into his base is technically open, and oh boy, that's 2 Rebaldaquin now. Free actually, according to the overlay, and now we are seeing Royal Bloodlines and Elite Knight coming in. I think with Elite Knights and Royal Bloodlines, the Rebaldaquin might actually work out to a decent effect.
And just to clarify for everybody at home, both players have got Rebaldaquins. We've got Viper with 1 Rebaldaquin, Beastyqt with 3 Reboldaquin. So I don't know what has happened. There has been a sudden and strange shift in the meta that all of a sudden overnight it seems Reboldaquin is the secret tech that no one was expecting. But now Arbalatrier running into the base of Viper. He's looking to try and do some damage. It's going to be that 29-minute Arbalatrier raid that you got to watch out for. Elite Longbowmen going to be able to try and deal with them. At the same time, a couple Spearmen being thrown into the mix. Arbalatrier making their way down towards the south side. But unfortunately, just going to be distracting Viper, it seems.
Yeah, and the problem right now for Viper is that the surface that he can attack is just minimal, and as we discussed, Beasty is now going for the death ball of siege. Look at that, 5 Mangonels, 3 Reboldaquin, 10 Springolds. Basically no meat shield, just pure siege out there. He's got the upgrades for his Royal Knights, so I wonder if he's actually going to start pumping them out, and he just dropped like 5 stables. Given the fact that Viper's base right now looks like Swiss cheese with all those overchops and lack of walls, he definitely has an option to send in a couple of knights here and start taking down Viper's eco. Viper's back to 100 villagers right now. Population still looking pretty close, but map control is like a 60-40 advantage right now for Beasty, and that is something that he can build on.
This is really curious to me. Now that I'm thinking about it, maybe the Reboldaquin's not that bad. We've got 10 Springolds for Beastyqt, which basically means that Viper has no chance of ever making siege. Throw into account the fact that there's Mangonels out, which deal very effectively with ranged units, and now all of a sudden you've got Reboldaquin, which do, I would assume, pretty well against melee units. This is going to be interesting. I'm curious to see how Viper actually defeats the siege-only ball. And when I say siege-only ball, look at the units right now for Beastyqt. He has got 1 Arbalatrier, 0 Arbalatrier. His only military units are siege. 2 Trebuchets, 3 Reboldaquins, 5 Mangonels, and 10 siege, 10 Springolds. Apologies. Wow, what a combination. This is new.
You really get the feel that he just intentionally threw away those Arbalatrier at this point so that he can get some population space for the cavalry. He's grabbing enlistment incentives. That's a nice tongue twister out there. So that's going to decrease the cost on those knights even further right next to the castle, making them very, very cost effective out here. So we'll see that it goes down to something like 92 food, I think. 105.
It's a pretty decent... Yeah, it's a pretty decent amount that it discounts you. But yeah, we do see those the keep going to be able to provide that nice little bonus. So it looks like the siege army wasn't the way that it decided to stay for the rest of the game. He instead looks to go into those elite Royal Knights. One of the strongest cavalry... Sorry, I take that back. The strongest cavalry unit in the game, the elite Royal Knight. But even though they've got that, they are not considered to be the strongest late game civ. But we'll see how Beasty looks to play it. He's got quite a fair bit of a fair bit of food that's stacked up at the moment. His wood is looking pretty decent as well. It's only gold that he's really struggling with. I'm assuming that he's got that guild hall sitting safely on gold at this point.
Yeah, he should. And the thing is that those knights can be used for 2 different things. You can send them over to raid, and that's exactly what he's doing right now. Look at that, 2,700 gold available. Right now, you don't want to pull it off. You're 200 out of 200 population, and you're still mining gold. So you just want to keep it there as long as possible. Try to bank up as much as possible out there. So you can send over the knights to raid, or you can use them as a meat shield. They are super tanky, 370 HP or so. And that's the thing that you need in front of a siege ball like that. Sure thing, Mangonels are nice, Springolds are nice, Reboldaquin are nice, but you still don't want to risk just being overrun by like 50 men-at-arms, because sure thing the first wall is going to wipe out 20 men-at-arms, but then once they close the distance, they will just destroy all those or your siege. So the knights will be a very effective meat shield here as well to support that siege army with.
My only concern at this point in the game is now that Beasty's got some knights out, well, this is exactly what my concern was, that Viper's base, as you mentioned, it's kind of looking terrible. There's overchops out the wazoo, and some places don't even have walls. And that really opens him up, because when it comes to the late game, if there's anybody who knows how to play it, it's Beastyqt. And we look at Beastyqt's side of the map, and you can see he has got walls absolutely everywhere. He's walled up the north side. He's walled up the south side. He is controlling the narrative. He is preventing any units from transgressing over to his territory. Look at this, double walls, triple walls in some places. He is completely prepared for the late game. But my concern is that those knights are going to continue looking to find many of those villages of Vipers, and Viper sitting at 98 villages at this point in time, losing more.
Yeah, that is the problem right now. That Viper's got 200 out of 200 population over here. He only has 100 villagers. Obviously, it doesn't necessarily need more than that, a lot more than that with the English. But the problem is that it's going to just deny so much resource income, and more importantly, it's going to distract Viper so much, because Viper can replenish those villagers, that's not really a big deal for him, but he constantly has to pay attention to all these raids, make sure that he replenishes the villagers that were lost, and that is just so depleting, so distracting, and Beastyqt is just using those raids as a pure diversion to try and push the middle now. The Springolds are crawling up, here comes the Siege Army.
Yeah, now we get to see that Siege Army in action. I'm looking forward to watching these Rebaldaquins because this could be the tail of the tournament. If we actually see these Rebaldaquin come out, then we could potentially see a shift to maybe the French becoming a strong competitor in the late game. Longbowmen beginning to march their way out. We've got all the elite upgrades for them, and here they go, ladies and gentlemen. The Rebaldaquin of Viper lasted a total of 0.2 seconds before it was killed. Unfortunately, the 12 range of the Springolds slightly outranges the 3.75 range of the Rebaldaquin.
I don't want to be that guy, but I told you.
But now we continue to see Viper struggling, and the issue isn't that he's losing villagers. The issue is that he's losing APM, because every single time he goes back to his base to try and deal with those pesky knights that are in his economy, he is wasting APM. He's got to deal with this APM because you can see Beastyqt, he responds to it when he is ready. But if Viper doesn't respond to it, he loses villagers now.
Exactly. And the thing is that Beast's got a lot of buffer zone over here. He's got the walls, so Viper can't just march straight into his base, and Beast is just coming in every once in a while with those knights, doing a bit of a damage and distracting Viper, but I feel like no one cares about those raids as long as we got the Rebaldaquin on the battlefield because they're slowly crawling up the majestic
Look at them
weapons.
come up. Aren't they so majestic? I'm so excited. And now a forward barracks going to be coming down of all things. I feel like Beasty's almost trolling at this point. Look at the resources he's starting to stack up. 9k food. Before this fight breaks out, I'm not sure if we can quickly go back and check the guild hall. You can see actually there's a bit of a battle beginning to break out now in the middle of the map. We've got ourselves Rebaldaquin that are trying, and they don't make their way to the front, unfortunately. Guild hall, 5k gold.
Yeah. You could start thinking about pulling that off right now, although you don't need it immediately for Beastyqt. The longer that he can just keep that gold in the guild hall, the better. So he really doesn't need that right now. But Viper now has a good number of Springolds out there, so he can snipe down those Rebaldaquin as well. And it is 11 Springolds versus 9. This is a fight that Viper could potentially take over here. 101 army against 94. For now, he's stabilizing. But once again, the problem is that his eco is still going to be a lot more exposed than the one from Beastyqt.
Yeah, and take a look now. Both players actually losing a fair bit of their economy. Viper down to 83 villagers. Beastyqt sitting on 106. But look at Viper's food income or food stack, food resources. He's sitting on 9,800. At the same time, Beasty sitting on 10,500. So both of these players very hungry, but not necessarily a lot to eat.
Indeed. And you see that they are both playing this one very carefully, very patiently. They know that they have a very good late game, like Viper obviously with the resource reserves he has, with the enclosures giving him infinite gold, whereas on the other side Beastyqt has a ton of gold in that guild hall, so neither of them really want to risk throwing away the game right now, because they know that, hey, I could still be here in 10 minutes and I will be in a decent position, so they're playing a very safe gameplay right now. You see poking and probing, but really not committing much, and that is going to be trade being set up by Beastyqt. You gotta love that, especially with the French. If he only had population for this one, Viper, no trade on the horizon for him.
Yeah, it looks like he's done it the wrong way around. He's put his markets in the wrong spot. He's got a 3 on one side. It means they're going to have to do a double back, but it is still going to be trade nonetheless that comes out for him. But we've got chemistry coming through for Beastyqt, so he's going to be looking to do a lot more damage with those Rebaldaquin. 13 traders in queue right now for Beastyqt.
Yeah, if he can set that trading eco up, that he's gonna be in a great position. In fact, I think that he needs to start thinking about deleting some villagers here and replacing them with traders, because longevity is going to be given by those traders out there. Now, once again, Beasty starts rolling with his army, also mixed in 2 cannon out there, so that army is just looking super, super scary right now. 5 Rebaldaquin, well, that's probably the least scary part of it, but 4 Mangonels, 12 Knights, also a couple of cannon and the Springolds, and most importantly, an impenetrable defense on the left side right now.
Yeah. I guess the thing for me is like, well, where do we go from here? Because you've got one player who's just sitting here with his defenses, and the other player who is just kind of looking to prong an attack, but not really finding much. And so the question is like, how do you end this game? Because we've been sitting at this stage for at least, I would say, close to 10 minutes now, where you've had these Rebaldaquin out threatening to kill. But at the same time, I mean, we've seen Viper now build up a decent mass of Springolds. He's going to be able to contest any siege ball quite easily with that amount of Springolds. So do we potentially see a wonder coming out here?
Oh, I feel like a Wonder is a great way to lose the game, because if you invest all your resources into a Wonder, then you pretty much tell your opponent, hey, I just spent a tons of resources on a Wonder, and you can just spend that on army. But yeah, great question, because neither of the players are really motivated to push forward. So at this point, it becomes a question of who is going to be willing to break this stalemate, and you get the feel that that is Beasty, and that's where the cavalry comes into play. He's got a lot higher mobility, so he can have a lot larger damage potential, so to say. You see, he's blasting his way through the walls. I love that he also brought in cannons. He was expecting Viper to have stone walls over here. Reality is that there are no stone walls, and now you see he's sending in the cavalry, and he sees that Viper is setting up the markets, and he actually placed the markets right next to that neutral trade post. What the heck?
Yeah, so the idea is that he puts the market on the other side of the map, and this way he's actually going to be skipping a trip. I'll explain it a little in a little bit exactly how it works, because it's quite a complex mechanic, but it's going to be a great way for him to get a good head start on his economy when it comes to trading. But now Viper continuing to struggle once again with the walls. We've seen a lack of stone walls coming out from him, and as a result, it means this trade economy going to be shut down before it even gets started. Beastyqt coming out to melt all of the men-at-arms, and look at them just go, doing absolute work right there.
Yeah, like, I agree with you on the remark that indeed you can get yourself some extra efficiency with the market placement that he has had for himself. My concern here is that that's once again APM heavy, and we've talked about this one right now. The biggest problem for Viper is that he's going to have issues with APM simply because he's going to be raided left and right over here, and there is just going to be too many places to pay attention to. Viper's actually down to 79 villagers. For now, it's not a big deal really, because the importance of villagers decreases as we go forward, and the importance of traders will increase. So he's actually going to be, to a certain extent, fine losing a couple of villagers for the sake of replacing them with traders.
Yeah, we now see that Beastyqt he's got 16 traders in queue at this point in time. Viper with only 3, but they are both looking to get into that trading economy. And finally, we see stone walls coming through for Viper. It has taken a long time, but we are here at 40 minutes into this game, and Viper finally got the message. Stone walls are in. They are in. Look at that. They are looking damn beautiful. The question is, how long is it going to be before those stone walls are broken through by a cannon, by a trebuchet, all those good things?
Yeah, that is going to be the big question right now, and we are entering a big stalemate. Beastyqt at 17,000 food. Like, we're actually entering the stage where wonders could soon become a reality, and that is just an absolute madness out there. You get the spring.
He's got plenty of resources in the bank. Look at that. He's got 6k food, 17k on the sorry, 17k food, 6k.
He's lacking the stone, but that's basically it. Like, with the amount of gold he has in the guild hall, he could have all but the stone. It's still very risky. Like, it's a huge risk.
Does he have anything in the guild hall still? Does he still have? Is the guild hall? Oh my god, it must be over 9,000 by now, surely.
Yeah, if he still has it in there, he has a chance for a wonder. Oh, he could do that.
Oh my god, so close! Twitch chat, everybody gets a gold. Everybody gets a gold.
Just think about that.
Oh my god.
He could drop the wonder right now. It's a massive risk because you're spending a ton of resources on it, but it's not like Viper has a ton of resources that he would be not spending on that wonder in reality. Like, if you think about that, if both players are banking up resources and one player just spends 24,000 resources on a wonder, the other one can field an army with that, but reality is that Viper simply doesn't have those resources. He's got the food, but limited amount of wood, limited amount of gold, and the easiest way for Beasty to capitalize on that siege army could really be just to turtle up and go for a wonder. He needs a lot of stone for that, but he could buy that.
That is a really good point. Yeah, well, and that's exactly it. I guess the thing is, like, you can buy 1,000 stone and it might cost you 130 gold per tick, but then as soon as you bought 1,000 of it, it's going to be really pushing it up quite a bit. Now, there's a couple of landmarks that I want to talk about. Obviously, there's landmarks in game, but there's also a landmark on the stream, so big shout out to all you guys watching on Twitch right now. We have reached 5,000 viewers, so big shout out to you guys as well. Glad to see that you guys are enjoying this series as much as we are, and thank you very much for the support. Keep it up, because this is EGC TV's Golden League, and there's going to be plenty more action already. So if you haven't, make sure you leave a follow on the channel so you can get your updates in. But Lidakor, I suspect we've got a little bit of a lull ahead of us, and finally we see an attack coming down on that south side. The stone walls aren't set to be too much longer in this game.
I just realized something. Think about French traders. they could bring back the stone directly. Like, other civilizations would struggle getting the stone for a wonder. Like, obviously right now, Beasty just wants to finish this game without a wonder, but if he really can't do that, he will think about the wonder at this stage with those resources, and the French is probably the best civ to do that with, because your traders can bring back the stone directly. You don't even have to buy it on the market.
That's actually a very good point. I think that's one of the civilization bonuses I think is very rarely remembered. Let's just put it that way. But we see Beastyqt, he crosses that 6,000 gold threshold, finding himself potentially trapped in there if he's not careful. In fact, going to be moving out towards those walls. But keep in mind, he's got so many resources in the bank at this point. 22,000 food for him stacked up. Viper, at the same time, he's got 1,000 of each resource. So it is going to be a different story for him. But now Knights are looking to come in and find a few longbowmen, and they're going to eat them for breakfast. Mangonel's going to be unfolding on the backline. Viper going to be adding in a bit of siege himself here, but he's going to need more than Mangonels to hold this position. Where are the spears at, ladies and gentlemen? I have got no idea.
Well, there's 41 of them on the battlefield, or at least there is supposed to be 41 of them. Many of the siege weapons will get taken down by the cavalry, but ultimately it's a cleanup, and once again, Beasty's just going to bump into the defense over here of Viper. Looks like the stone walls were unfinished on the right side, so the cavalry can get in. Beasty's actually adding quite a lot of the horsemen out there, and that poor deer just got slaughtered by the cavalry. What did he do to you, Beasty?
Rest in peace, little dear. You will go on to live a great life as a 350 food donation to the cause of these two players who have slowly gathered 36,000 food at this point in time. But now we see that enclosure's tech ticking off. At the same time, villagers going to be going down. Viper down to 78 villagers at this point in time. Neither player really pushing through. Viper still struggling to deal with these raids as he continues to lose villagers. And keep in mind, every villager he loses, he replaces it with a military unit or a trader. So it works out for him. It's a decent trade for him.
Yeah, and every cavalry unit that Beasty loses, he's going to replenish those with traders as well, because it's not like Beasty has a ton of traders working for him right now. Looking at that 10,000 gold, I really think that he should just keep it there for the time being, because does he need that gold right now? Absolutely not. So just keep it there. The more you have in there, the more you generate. And I'm fairly certain that he knows it's there, but he simply doesn't need it. Traders being picked off is great value here by Beasty though, and he's slowly starting to grind down Viper's eco here, you get the feel, because sure thing, Viper is replacing lost villagers with traders, but the traders are also getting instantly killed here.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So he's replacing those units, but immediately they're going to kill. But now we finally see a push beginning on the middle of the map. Could we finally have ourselves a battle? No, we're never mind. As Beasty decides, hold on. Yeah, it's all right. We'll get our wonder in. Don't worry, fellas. It's okay. But yeah, Viper now beginning to struggle here with the Knights. Knights doing a great job of just taking down the Springalds. Neither player really that optimistic about the chances of success here, but it looks like now we finally have ourselves a bit of a battle beginning to unfold in the middle of the map. Finally, the Revoltaquin moving forward and absolutely destroying all the siege, or rather all the infantry there. At the same time, Springalds just picking them off, and now some Knights going to be running in from the north. The first battle in what appears to be 26 minutes finally going to be happening here in the middle of the map. Lidakor, is there any possible way that one of these players taps out in this battle?
Definitely not. I feel like as long as you have so many resources in the resource bank, there's no way they tap out. The Mangonels are now unleashing that. You see those Revoltaquin, now that the infantry is clustered up like that, they might be able to dish out some decent levels of punishment, and that's exactly what they do in combination with the Mangonels. Cavalry now forcing Viper back over here. I feel like at this point, Beasty knows that he's in a decent spot. He's got so many resources out there. He has actually just spent like 5,000 gold on units. I assume that's like a next wave of Knights. Indeed, oh, you can see on the left side of the screen, bunch of Elite Royal Knights are queued up, and I think he knows that there is blood in the water. He knows that he can just send in wave after wave of cavalry and slowly deplete Viper's army.
Now, one thing to note is Viper is down to 400 or 500 wood at this point in time. He's added in a whole bunch of outposts on this front line. They've got the Springled emplacements fully upgraded. They're just firing off upon these units, but he is down when it comes to those resources. You can see he's down to 134 population. Viper struggling to keep his head above water. At the same time, Beasty sitting on 163. But at this point in time, I mean, as you mentioned, blood in the water are definitely going to be smelt here. But at the same time, I mean, Beasty falls back. He doesn't think he can do it.
The problem that Viper is facing is that all the units that he wants to go for, the longbows, the spearmen, those cost wood for him, and that's his biggest bottleneck right now. He's floating a lot of gold, but he isn't really using a gold-heavy unit composition. Men-at-arms, longbows, and spearmen really barely consuming any gold out there. Really, the siege is the only thing that he's spending a lot of gold on, whereas on the other side, Beasty's got infinite gold, he's got infinite food. So he can just send in wave after wave of Knights, but Beasty failed to break that stalemate. He's down to 500 gold out there. Now 10,000, actually 12,000 gold in that guild hall.
Did you see that? It's actually 1, 2, 4, 8. You know, like it's doubling every single time. 1, 2, 4, 8. But then it eventually goes into 0, which is just yeah, it breaks the integer.
Imagine if we get like 1, 2, 4, 8, 16. That would be crazy.
That would be crazy, but it definitely would have been out of the question with this game, it seems. Viper looking to try and put on some damage in this situation. A couple of cannons getting caught out of position. He could be moving up towards it. You can see the Chads, the armor Chads moving out. Keep in mind, all of the upgrades are through for these players. They have both got their +3 upgrades. The only difference is Viper still yet to get that tech level 3 for his farms. So Beasty has level 3, but now getting caught out in position. You can see all of the Knights going to be struggling in his spears, doing plenty of damage, and now battle is happening all over the map. And look at the siege up towards the north at the same time. Horseman coming out here for Beastyqt, looking to clean up this position. He's got so much wood in the bank, he just decided to spend it on Horseman.
Yeah, that's a bit of a surprise he's using it to spend it on Horsemen, because sure thing, the Horsemen are nice, but one thing that they struggle with a little bit is that they're not necessarily population efficient, or at least not as much as those very tanky elite Royal Knights are. Knights will just completely ignore the castle fire out there, and they will just try to head towards the base of Viper. Viper now has some defensive keeps in his trade though, so it's really going to be difficult for these Royal Knights to do a ton of damage out there, but this is exactly how Beasty has to play this one. He needs to leverage that mobility as much as possible. Viper, I think the last 2 minutes probably favored him, so slowly but surely he's getting back on track. Like, this game has the potential to go to like 1.5 hours at this pace.
Oh, easily. These two guys so evenly matched when it comes to stuff like this, and you could see how fearful they were of pushing up. They were so scared to push up and really make a commitment towards each other. It was just Viper very much inviting Beasty to come in to his base, and then overwhelmed him with that production, and eventually he was able to sort of turn the fight back on its head. But now Viper manages to clean up this position. You can see he needs to start adding in more walls. Honestly, delete the production, just seal those walls. That's really important, because he's going to be dealing with run-bys throughout this game continually. But I gotta say, this is a best-of-5 series. We're in game number 2 right now, Lidakor. I hope you got yourself some coffee, mate, because I tell you what, we are in for the long haul here.
Yeah, it's gonna be a very long day for us, it seems. And the thing is that the fact that they are playing this one this cautiously just tells you how significant they think this game is. Because right now, Viper is at a 1-0 lead, and both of these players playing this one very cautiously, really trying to avoid any overcommitments, any mistakes.
Look at the gold, look at the gold! Beasty finally took out the gold! It's 14,924 gold. He's about to hit 15k of gold right there. Is he going to be going onto stone? No, he just keeps it on gold. He's like, you know what? That's not enough gold. We're going to need more. Oh, you got to love it coming out from him. But now it looks like we've got keeps being attempted to be dropped down here in the center. A little bit of a chase going to happen here. Unfortunately, all those Knights going to be able to make it out with Viper without Viper doing too much, but a bit of a fight now breaking out in the middle of the map. Viper once again. Look at the infantry mass coming out from Viper. Where are the Reboldaquins at this point in time? They've all been taken out. Beastyqt currently sitting with no Reboldaquins, and now Viper, huge infantry mass coming out and could look to push his opponent's base.
He's buying the stone. Look at the stone count rise. It's a wonder. Oh, it's a wonder by Beasty.
It's a wonder. He's actually going to do it to Madman. Oh, where does it go? It's got to be that top corner, right? There's no other place he could surely put it down.
Or maybe right next to the red palace. Oh, it's too far out now. It has to be the corner. It has to be in the corner.
It's the middle. No, he put it in the middle of the map. You crazy cat. Look at you. Oh, I can't believe it. Look, he's going for it. We've got ourselves Notre Dame, ladies and gentlemen. It is happening. 24,000 resources spent on Notre Dame. Is it going to be worth it? We're about to find out, because Beastyqt thinks he can settle this dispute. There's been a battle for 52 minutes raging on, and Beasty says, I don't want it to go any longer. I'm going to do my best to finish this before it even begins.
Yeah, and I think that's the right thing to do right now, because Viper, he really was hesitant to push this one. Neither of the players wanted to commit. Beasty tried to break the stalemate, realized that he cannot, and right now the safest play for him is just to play defensive. That Ball of Siege, 7 mangonels, really is something that could wipe out Viper's army in just a split second. And let's not forget, Beasty always has the opportunity to counterattack this one. Oh, I love this play. I just love this play. He could have actually set some of those traders on stone before, just so that he has the stone and doesn't have to buy it. I wonder what the stone price is on the market. Could we actually check that? How much it costs to buy 100 stone? Because I think it's around 200 now.
Yeah, let's have a look. It's
Oh, 298.
298 gold. Yo, you guys want some stone? I got a great deal for you here. Come on down. But we see that wonder has finally been built. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Get your timers out. So set timer for 15 minutes. I'm not going to say those magic words that you know I love to say. But yeah, 68 minutes, 69 minutes roughly is going to be the time frame that we're looking at here. If Beastyqt can keep his landmark or his wonder alive for that long, then he's going to be fine.
Look at the counter deck. The thing is that the moment the wonder was completed, Viper started moving out. You see the immediate reaction is realizing that, oh shoot, I'm in trouble. Now I'm on a timer. So it would be at around 108, 109 when that wonder has to be destroyed unless Viper wants to lose this game here. And the thing is that Beasty was trying to break through on the right side. So he knows that Viper has to start committing towards a push. And the moment he does that in the middle, I can blast through the right side, run into his base, and start wreaking havoc inside his eco. And if I can stall out his push, he's not gonna have the tools to replenish it. Although, now Viper is also banking up a ton of resources. Oh boy. Okay,
oh boy, indeed.
Question to you here.
Yeah.
I do have a question to you. So, you have 15 minutes to push this one. Are you going to just sort of assemble your forces, go for one direct push, sort of all in this one? Or are you thinking in dimensions of, okay, I'm going to make a push with what I have right now, and then if I fail, I still have time to build up another force? So are you thinking about all-inning one push here, or potentially thinking about having two shots at taking down that wonder for Viper?
Well, I'll just start by saying, if I was on the defending side, I wouldn't be going for palisade walls, but Beasty seems to have decided that that's going to be the best choice to defend this wonder. I would be thinking, one of the things people don't really realize when they go for a wonder is the wonder isn't a landmark. So even though that wonder can stay alive, if you just kill all the enemy's landmarks, you will just win the game. And people often forget about that because they will really look to defend that wonder and really try and, you know, imprison it in wooden walls or palisade walls or whether stone walls. So I would just be going for a landmark snipe in this situation.
Ooh, interesting concept, especially given the fact that the opponent has the Red Palace, but I don't disagree with you, because really, especially if Beasty's focusing all his efforts at defending that wonder over there, then going for a landmark snipe is a possibility. You see the Guildhall, the School of Cavern, the Starting Town Center is right next to each other, so that's your primary spearhead, but at one time you will have to deal with that Red Palace. This is something that makes life a little easier for Beasty, at least for this defense. And the concern for Viper is that Beasty still has 9,000 gold in the bank. He wouldn't run out of resources even if he starts taking a lot of engagements. So this is going to be tough for Viper, especially because he's losing his trade behind this one.
Yeah, we can see that Guildhall is now on gold for Beastyqt. He's not satisfied with the 9,400 gold he's got in the bank, so he decides it's probably going to be best to spending it or keeping that Guildhall on gold. But once again, Viper still yet to seal up these defenses, and I got to tell you, it's starting to trigger me. We're 56 minutes into this game. Viper started off doing the no wall challenge earlier today, but has decided to finally make walls. But just leaving the front door open like this, it really starts to blow my mind. He's down to 78 villagers at this point in time. I wouldn't be surprised if he just goes for a full villager delete and just goes all in on a potential military mass, but we'll see how he looks to play it as he continues to push through the center here.
Yeah, the clock is ticking for him. There is about 13 minutes still left, but obviously, the longer he waits to make this push, or the longer he's delayed, the lower his chance is to launch a second assault. And this is what we were talking about before, that do you have one or two shots at this? And right now, I think the window is closing for Viper to have two pushes, or at least to have time for two pushes. So, as you pointed out, at this point, if he's thinking about one push, then yeah, it has to be pretty much full villager delete with all the resources he has banked up. 200 military, let's go. I gotta snipe it, because no matter whether you go for a landmark snipe or you go for the wonder, the only way for you to stop the opponent from winning right now is if you basically level his base, either with the landmarks or that wonder. But if you want to destroy that wonder, you have to destroy his entire base before that, pretty much.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And now we do see that he is moving in towards that first landmark. He's going to be looking to take down that Red Palace. At the same time, we've got a bit of a raid coming down towards this south position. Viper got to be careful not to over-chop on that wood line. And you can see all of the cavalry going to be making a move towards this position. Outpost going to be providing plenty of line of sight. Archers and longbows going to be working in tandem. I mean, they are the same unit. Going to be trying to repel that position, but now a siege or a wall gets repaired up here towards the base of his opponent. And we don't really go anywhere, but now men-at-arms getting in on the action as well, looking to create that nice little concave at the front.
Yeah, the problem for Viper right now is that he's pushing nowhere right now. Really, he has advanced basically nothing in the last 3-4 minutes, and the clock is ticking really fast. We're entering that 10-minute mark very soon with that Wonder. Right now, Beasty, his army, 9 Mangonels, 10 Springles, basically no cavalry, and, you know, we're getting close to the domain where Beasty could also consider villager delete. Look at that, 120 eco for him. He, with that resource bank, should start deleting villagers as well, and replacing that with army, because I think if he wants to win this game, he is gonna have to defend that Wonder, otherwise we're going to see like a 7-hour-long game here.
Yeah, you're not wrong. You are not wrong. But now going to be beginning to move into the middle of the map. You can see that he is definitely eyeing out that position. Another keep going to be coming down here for Beastyqt, but keep in mind that that Wonder doesn't work as a landmark. So Viper does have the option to snipe out the other landmarks that aren't as protected as that keep, or as that Wonder is. But now on the front line, you can see that there's a couple of villagers standing idly by the Red Palace, looking to just potentially heal it up. And now Viper pushing forward down towards that position. The timer, keep in mind, it's 9 minutes to go, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate you can't see it on your screen at the moment. I can't either, but I'm just keeping a mental tally. It's 68 minutes is going to be. So the 69th minute is when your good game is going to get called.
Yeah, can we just appreciate the fact that this overlay wasn't designed for Wonder victories? That's how rare they are in 1v1s. When this overlay was really made, no one thought about, oh yeah, let's put up a counter for the Wonder countdown in 1v1. It's like, yeah, because no one does that. But here we are, Beasty, in a $125,000 tournament, he's doing that, and that's the right choice. Especially with the resource bank he has. I mean, he's getting close to being able to afford a second Wonder.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. So it is going to be that 68th minute. Yeah, I mean, if his plans don't go well with the first Wonder, he can just look to make the second one. And now Viper, once again, going to be turning his attention towards his base. And this is part of the reason. I mean, you could just be ignoring this right now if you just had stone walls that were covering off your base. But now look at all of Viper's military coming back. He's making a huge mistake. Finally going to be turning around. Good decision from Viper. He just needs to ignore this. He really needs to be looking to focus and make progress on the front line because he's just not doing it.
Yeah, like, he needs to ignore this. I mean, we talked about the fact that he pretty much needs to delete villagers here at this point, because he needs that critical mass to reach the opponent's base, destroy the landmarks or the Wonder. And at this point, it actually helps him that he's being raided, because he can replenish all those lost traders and infantry with just combat units on the battlefield. He's got a big enough resource bank to replenish his forces for a while, and really, if his first push stalls out, I don't think he has time for a second one. So being able to replenish your forces will have a lower and lower significance. It's not like you need to be able to sustain a production for the next 30 minutes at this point for him.
Yeah, that's exactly right. But now we see a bit of a push coming in towards that western front. At the same time, Viper looking to eye out on his opponent's base towards the north. We see the Wing Guard rallied over towards the west. A couple of units here working around the back of the base of Viper, and now picking off those longbows, actually doing a good job of picking off the villagers rebuilding that wall. I didn't realize longbows could fire over a wall, but that Red Palace is going to be going down, so there is the potential for us to see a landmark snipe. Viper is looking to scout out the enemy base, trying to see what he's up against. More keeps going down, and this could be a bit dangerous here. We talked about this early. If Beasty commits to his Wonder and not to his initial landmarks, that he could lose the entire game. And you can see all the outposts coming down in this position. This could spoil the end for Beasty. This could be terrible. Look at all the stone that is getting put down here in this position. So many resources being put onto this Wonder leaves the landmarks open. Does Viper go for a potential landmark snipe?
It's a possibility, but clock is ticking so badly. Every single second that he's spending on that Red Palace is going to be more and more of a pain for him, because you see there is like 8 minutes left now. The cavalry is coming out, and you want to target those bombards because the trebuchets, they take a lot of time, especially when the villagers are repairing that castle out there. You want to snipe those bombards because you want to slow down this one at this point. Beasty knows that eventually he would lose that Red Palace. It's all about buying himself time with 7 minutes left on the clock for the Wonder.
Yeah, I'm starting to get butterflies in the stomach now. I can't imagine what Viper is feeling right now. I reckon that he is starting to worry, because, ladies and gentlemen, we've got ourselves about 6 minutes before this game is actually finished. And you can see right now the Springald's making their way out towards the front, going to be able to deal with that. And we see another run-by coming past. And every single run-by that happens, Viper runs a whole bunch of units back into his base. And you just got to wonder, why has he not just walled himself in? It just doesn't make sense. He's just throwing away units constantly, throwing away APM, throwing away attention, just losing so much by doing this. And now we continue to see him just struggling on this front. Does he even know that there's a Wonder up right now, Lidakor?
I would think that he does, but The thing is that he should just ignore these counterattacks at this point. He's trying to save a farming eco when he's got 24,000 food in the bank, yet he made zero progress pushing towards that wonder, because really zero progress was made by him. Zero ground was gained, and we're down to 6 minutes. For the last 9 minutes, he wasn't able to get any kind of progress in here, getting close to that wonder, and really the fact that he's reacting to those knights running into his eco with so much infantry is delaying him so heavily.
I genuinely think he hasn't realized that there is a wonder ticking right now. Whether he didn't get the notification in game or whether he didn't pay attention to it, maybe it's just one of those high-octane moments when you're in the late game. But to me, it doesn't look like Viper is playing like there is a wonder in this game. He is anchoring towards this red palace. He is playing up. He's pushing methodically, and he doesn't realize that there is 4 minutes and 30 seconds left to go in this game. If I was going to say Marine Lord, if Beastyqt manages to keep this wonder alive.
Now, when the wonder was built, Viper actually gets a notification to destroy it, but obviously, as you pointed out, in the heat of the battle, he may or may have not noticed that, especially this being a 1 hour long game over here. A lot of fatigue could kick in for the players, and look at Beastyqt on the left side. I just want to highlight one thing. Not only does Beasty have 19,000 food in his bank, he's got 83 Elite Royal Knights queued up. This is the moment where you go mass villager delete. You got 4 minutes on that timer. How would Viper push through this much siege, 10 castles, the Red Palace, and like about 100 Elite Royal Knights? There's no way Viper can do that in just 4 minutes.
Yeah, and you got to say, like, it is just... To me, it's insane because you've got Beastyqt on the French, which many consider to be the worst late-game civilization. And he managed to stall out the game through run-bys, through Rabaldaquin somehow, and manages to keep himself alive until the point where he actually gets a wonder out. It is absolutely ludicrous, and now we see for the 15th time, just in the last 10 minutes, a run-by coming through, Viper turning his attention and his military back towards his base.
I can't believe this! I can't believe this! Why? Just why? It really feels like Viper didn't notice there's a wonder going on or something. Like, we have 3 minutes or less than that on the timer, and we have seen no signs of him trying to go for an all-in, and now, really, it has to be an all-in, otherwise he loses this game, plain and simple.
Yeah, well, the 3-minute bell would have just done for him. You can see it right there, fellas, on the screen. 3 minutes until wonder defeat, and Viper, I suspect, is going to wake up very shortly and be like, 3 minutes until wonder defeat? Oh, no. Oh no. And now we can see Beastyqt beginning to build the mass of knights in his base.
Mass
and look at
delete.
the damage. There is so much potential coming out. And yeah, Beasty doing a great job there, deleting it. And finally, I think Viper may have woken up to the calls of his... Yeah, okay, Viper has realized. He's like, hold on a minute, there's a wonder? What are we going to do here? All right. Let's work through it slowly and methodically, Viper. We can do it. We're just going to push forward here. Oh,
it is too late, Ozzy. It is too late. I mean, 2 minutes left on the timer, and there's like 10 castles to burn down. And Beast has got 131 army on the battlefield, man. Oh, I really wonder. I would love to ask Viper if he noticed or not that countdown, because it just feels so unnatural for him not to do anything for like 10 minutes and then suddenly scramble for a push like that. And he's calling off his forces once again. What's happening to the Viper?
What is going on? Did he not get the notification of the first dong? There's the second one, Viper. Have you realized yet there's a wonder that you need to burn down? You got 2 minutes to go, buddy. You made no headway on the front line. You got to find out some sort of magic because this methodical outpost push is just not working.
Oh, this could even be a landmark snipe at this space. I mean,
Oh
Beast
my
isn't
God,
messing
don't
around.
do it to him.
And the thing is that Viper has to address that. He can't just let those, and Viper taps out. Oh my goodness, he taps out when the cavalry moves in though. Did he not notice the wonder?
He never noticed it. There is no way he noticed that wonder at all. Viper's just like, it's almost like Viper's playing a game against himself. He's like, oh, I'm pushing up. I'm going to take out the walls. Oh yeah, good job, Viper. Keep on going. Pushes up, takes out the next set of walls. Yeah, get him, Viper. And meanwhile, just the clock is ticking for Beastyqt. He's having a great time. Wow, I didn't expect that game to go that way.
No, not at all. And like, the interesting thing here is that Viper tapped out the moment he saw like 40 Elite Royal Knights running into his eco. It's like, if you didn't have that wonder up, you would say Viper tapped out because he knows that he's going to lose most of his eco. Maybe, just maybe, he saw the wonder and realized that, okay, I either clean this army up and prevent a landmark snipe, or I push towards that wonder. But really, 15 minutes of a Wonder countdown seems like a lot of time, but the problem for Viper was that for the first 10 minutes he made zero noticeable progress, and we really don't know if he noticed the Wonder or not, or he just tried to play this one methodically, but even in the last couple of minutes he didn't play like as if he had to play an all-in. Look at those resources, 21,000 stone as well for Beastyqt, 81,000 gold, much better economy, and a somewhat questionable ending to this game number 2 here, right?
Yeah, you've really got to scratch your head and go, what the heck was going on there? And I just think it comes down to Viper not realizing. Honestly, when it gets to those late game scenarios and you've got so much going on, you're just getting, and to be honest, I hate to say it, but I feel like you can't blame anyone but Viper for that scenario because he allowed it to happen by not walling up. How many times did we talk about the potential for run buys to happen? And we just saw it over and over and over again. It was the theme of the game. It was just, look, there's another run buy. And we knew exactly what the intent of the run buy was. It's just to draw forces back, just to delay the game.